Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the She's Got GAWL podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers. I am Ebony Phillips, your host, and I am thrilled for tonight's episode. And when I say thrilled, I mean thrilled. We have the distinct honor and privilege of having the president, you heard me right, the president of the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers joining us tonight. And other than the fact that she's super fabulous, which we know she is, the other reason that we're super excited is because this is the beginning of a new membership year. And then also because this will be GAWL's 95th year as an organization, and she has the distinct honor of leading the way. And so before we get into the conversation, because we've got a lot to talk about, I want to give her a proper introduction. And so when I'm talking about the GAWL president, I'm talking about attorney Valentia Alleyne, and she is the founder of the Alleyne Law Firm, LLC, where she is devoted to providing dependable service and quality legal representation. Valentia has spent over 10 years as an entrepreneur managing a private practice where she focuses primarily on estate planning, probate, bankruptcy, and real estate. She advises clients on building and maintaining wealth while educating clients on how to pass wealth and build a future for their loved ones. And whether she's counseling small business owners on succession planning or handling real estate matters, or even advising a bankruptcy client on how to recover and thrive after bankruptcy, Valentia has spent her legal career assisting families in building and preserving legacies for generations to come, and while focusing on family care and providing for loved ones that are currently in need of assistance. In addition to her practice, Valentia has lectured and participated in workshops on starting and maintaining a small business, preserving and transferring family wealth, and consumer bankruptcy relief. Now, despite her busy caseload, if all of that wasn't enough, Valentia has also earned praise from her peers for her commitment to the legal profession and the hours she spends volunteering to make it stronger. She is heavily involved with several diversity initiatives as the president of the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers, the DeKalb Pro Bono, where she serves as an advisory board member this year. Along with pro bono work for the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, the WILS project that they do, outside of the legal profession, Valentia is busy with the ABLE group, and that is a nonprofit organization that she co-founded to educate the community on financial wellness and wealth building, along with donating a significant amount of her time to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where she serves on the executive committee of her chapter. Now, Valentia obtained her Juris Doctorate degree from Loyola University Chicago School of Law. She also holds a Master of Laws in Taxation from Northwestern University School of Law, a Master of Business Administration from the University of Phoenix, and her Bachelor of Arts from the University of Virginia. Prior to practicing law, she was a residential and commercial real estate agent in her early career, and then transitioned to marketing and business development in the corporate sector for over 15 years. Valentia is an avid sports fan. You heard me right, avid sports fan, and a music enthusiast. She also enjoys spending time traveling the world with her family. Please help me welcome Georgia Association for Women Lawyers President, Valentia Alleyne. Hello, Valentia.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I can't use the word enough. I'm gonna say it one last time, and hopefully I won't say it again tonight, but totally thrilled to have you. So thank you so much for accepting the invitation to come on. Before we dive into really what you're here for, all the talk about GAWL, I want to say two things about Valentia that people might not know. Other than so Valentia is very serious, right? She is about the business. Always about the business. Organized, focused, we're going forward, we're progressing. But what they may not know is, what you guys may not know is Valentia is funny, y'all. If you've never seen her outside of a professional environment, she is hilarious, okay? And not only is she funny, but she's serious about her sports, right? And so I was watching something the other day, and I actually almost called her because I'm like, I bet she's watching this too. And then I was like, you know what? I shouldn't do that, because if I try to engage her in conversation, she's going to know so much more about it than I would. Then it's not even going to be fun anymore. So I didn't make the call. So if you want to know just how well-rounded our president is, this is the picture of Valentia. And so I wanted to ask you though, and this is more on a serious note, because the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers is a dynamic organization who's, like you said, 95 years. That's incredible. How long have you been a member of the organization, and what led you to it?
Yeah, great question. And you pegged me very well, by the way, Ebony. If you had to sum up my personality, I think you did it. I'm going to steal that as my elevator pitch because you summed it up so eloquently. But I have been a member of GAWL since graduating law school, which was in 2010. So I've been part of the organization for 12 years and have been on the board 10 of those 12 years. So what drew me to GAWL, as you referenced, I went to law school in Chicago, and I remember meeting Jessica Wood, who's one of my dear friends and mentors. I come back, I knew I was going to practice in Georgia, but I was going to law school in Chicago, and I didn't realize how important building your network was going to be. Right. And so I met her going into my 2L year, and she says, okay, when you come back, you got to call me. And, you know, you hear this from so many people, and it doesn't always turn out that way. Right. But if you call her, email her, she picks right up. And so she's like, just come with me to this event, networking event. I'll introduce you to folks. And that was GAWL. I did not know what GAWL was. And, you know, she said, you're fine, as she teases that I can walk any room. And I just started talking with people. I just, look, either we're going to hit it off or not. And I ended up bumping into, at the time, our networking neighborhood breakfast host, Janie Haygood. And I went to one breakfast, and then she pulled me to the side. She's like, I think you'd be great at this. I'm going to turn the reins over to you. And I ended up being the NMB host for the next 4 years for Cobb County. Wow. And that is how I started in GAWL. And then I just kind of started navigating. I started in membership and served on the committee, and then I became chair. And then from membership to our strategic partnerships group for 4 years to representative at large, then to secretary, and then president-elect, and then to president. So I've seen all aspects of the organization, but it was really, you know, someone just saying, let me introduce you to some folks, and I'm going to leave the rest up to you. And GAWL it's poured into me just as much as I poured into the organization. And I'm forever grateful for the relationships and the opportunities I've been afforded by being associated with the organization.
So that's a great segue into what was going to be my next question, because you came and you stayed a long time, Valentia. You've been here a while. So there must be something that keeps you coming back, because this is a volunteer organization, and you've assumed a lot of leadership positions, which of course means a lot of hours given, a lot of time spent, a lot of dedication. So what is it about GAWL that keeps you coming back? You kind of hit on it a little bit. You said you know, it's poured into you, but can you be more specific on that?
Sure. When I say that, you know, I believe we as attorneys, we're still servants to the public, right? And so, and in this case, the public, you have the at-large, but then you have the public of other lawyers. Right. And because I knew I wanted to get involved, I figured that was a great way to learn about the legal profession, the legal landscape of Atlanta. Right. I am the first attorney in my family. So, you know, I was just, where they say that, just big-eyed, green-eyed, you know, wet behind the ears. And so I really just wanted to learn what lawyers do and foster relationships. And so, you know, I have this joke that if you raise your hand, someone from GAWL is going to call you. And I went to a lot of different things. And when I made that phone call to GAWL, they called me instantly. And so, you know, I feel that we have, which is why I try to do my part from a pro bono perspective. Right. I just believe we have a responsibility to help others along, young lawyers. And that's how I got to where I am, because someone took me under their wing and said, I'm going to help you navigate this landscape. Whatever you want to do in the legal profession, I will help you. And all those, a bulk of them came from GAWL, who have helped guide me in my career, who afforded me opportunities and referrals. And so to me, it was a no-brainer. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, it can be exhausting. But, it's the one organization I'm a part of where I never hear, I hear more than enough thank you. Someone's always thanking you. So in other words, I really feel that the time that we commit, because it is a time commitment, it is volunteer, that it's appreciated and it shows up abundantly. So for me, it wasn't hard for me to stick around. And the more I got to know the organization, the more I learned about our history and just the powerful women that have led us to 95 years of being a bar association. It just was natural for me to work my way up, I guess, through the organization, ultimately to president. And I love serving and trying to give back to those young attorneys, because that's what happened to me.
Right. So you mentioned something else that I was going to ask you about. 95 years. A lot of us weren't around then, obviously. Tell the audience a little bit about the history of the organization, how it was founded, why it was founded, all the things, that one might be interested in if they're considering joining.
Right. So we were formed. So we're going to turn 95 in January of 2023. And it was, if you go back, unfortunately, even when we started as a bar association, we still, as women, weren't even allowed to practice. That came after Minnie Hale, who was our first president. It came 2 years after she became president. And they believed that women deserved a voice and that we could be great contributors. And so there were many laws that weren't on the books yet that specifically impacted women. And so from day one, we have been innovators. We have been in the trenches, helping to, have women have the ability to practice law in Georgia, from reproductive rights. If you go and look at, we actually have archives at Georgia State, and you'll see our history on landmark cases. And GAWL was at the forefront of all of them, especially in the 40s through the 50s, when a lot of the landscape changed here in Georgia, along with the rest of the country. The leaders at that time were, the ones knocking on the governor's door, getting their male colleagues to, sign on to amicus briefs for initiatives that specifically impacted women. And so we have a long legacy of, I call them, fighters for women's rights, women's position in the legal profession, women being able to sit on the bench. First you have to practice, and then you had to get us on the bench. And that is what GAWL represents, is being leaders for women and helping propel us here specifically in the state of Georgia in the legal profession.
So that is a very rich history and a dynamic legacy. And so I would imagine that as president, you've kind of thought about all of those things as you sort of formalize or formulate your vision for the membership year. Mm-hmm. With that in mind, with the 95 years, with all that GAWL has accomplished, all the members have done heretofore, what's your vision for this membership year?
Great question. So, our theme this year is to reconnect, recollect, and reimagine. And when you hear about that, it really is, we're coming out of a pandemic. So it's reconnecting our members and re-engaging them. GAWL has so much rich programming from our GAWL EDU for younger lawyers who are trying to navigate in this legal community. You know, how do you get on a track for being a partner? You know, how do you do client development? To our Leadership Academy, which is for more seasoned lawyers. And so, you know, a lot of this, as all of bar associations were figured out, how do we do programming in a virtual environment? And, you know, if I can toot Miss Attorney Phillips' horn, she was great at keeping us with some really innovative programming, especially then you add the element of being a statewide organization, you know, keeping our chapters engaged, whether it's in Savannah or Gwinnett or West Georgia. So one of the main things was reconnecting our membership base with one another. And then also reconnecting us with other bar organizations. I used to be the chair of the MBLC, which is the Multi-Leadership Bar Council that you know, disbanded a couple of years ago. But one of the great things about it was connecting all of the bar associations in the Metro Atlanta area, and really were proponents about supporting each other's initiatives. So I really wanted to make sure we as an organization did a good job of connecting or reconnecting with our sister or bar associations here in Georgia. The Recollect is, you know, really recognizing our 95 years of history that we've already talked about, and getting back to the basics of what GAWL was known for, right? And being leaders in our community here in Georgia. And then finally, just reimagining, you know, we've done all these great things, but we can do so much more. So as we go into another 95 years, yes, we can build on our history and understand a legacy, but also what can innovative things, you know, can we do? So, you know, this is this wonderful platform She's Got GAWL is just a prime example, right? I know there's some great things in store, so I'm not going to, you know, steal your thunder, but, you know, reimagining how we convey who we are and how we support. One of the great things that I'm really excited about when I talked about not only do we support women lawyers, but also giving back to the community, is being able to do our partnership with the CAB Pro Bono this year and offer. I'm very much an advocate for doing pro bono work to the best of one's ability and the time commitment. So having them as strategic partners, we worked on this all last year to bring it to our membership base. So that'll be rolling out this year as well, of how we can get our members to do more pro bono activity with our partnership with DeKalb Pro Bono. So we have a lot of things in the pipeline that will carry us forward into next year and years to come.
So Valentia, I hear all that, and it's fantastic. But why should women, and men too, because it's not just for women, right? Why should women and men actually join GAWL and support GAWL's mission? Like, why would one do that? Why would you think one should do that?
Right. Great question. You know, I always say, if you want to get some practical experience, if you want to build meaningful relationships, there's no better place than GAWL. I have the network that I have because of the men and the women that I met at GAWL. And I think, you know, people often forget that, so I'm so glad you brought this up. You know, we advocate for women's interests, but we're also one of the few organizations that are open to not only men, but also our partners in the legal profession. So we really are an all-encompassing bar association, you know, whether it's financial advisors, people that intersect with legal professionals all the time. We want to partner and network. So a lot, whether it's doing depositions, right? And so you're dealing with court reporters. And so we really pride ourselves on being a bar association that welcomes law school students, people in the profession that support legal, for lawyers and judges, and for men, let's be clear, if we go back in time, if it wasn't for our male counterparts, we wouldn't be practicing anyway. So they were very much influencers in helping us get a seat at the table. And so if we're talking about going back to our legacy and our history, it was being able to partner and bring the male input in as we continue to shape ourselves as a bar association. So I love it. I have several friends, who join. That's like, you're gonna love it. And you're the talk of the town because, good or bad or different, you're still a bulk of any room is going to be women lawyers, but the men stand out so greatly. So it's I'm like, hey, be eye candy for a second, but in all seriousness, it really is an opportunity where men's voices can be heard, and we want to get their perspective as it relates to initiatives that directly impact women as well.
I think that's an excellent way to put it, and if I could just put my little plug in for GAWL for whatever it may be worth, the thing that, one of the things that stands out to me is that regardless of whether your need might be a professional need or a personal need or whatever you might need, somebody in GAWL is always willing to assist. They are always willing to step up and help you bear whatever the load is, help you climb the hill, whatever the need may be. But also, I love the fact, as you kind of alluded to earlier, it doesn't really matter where you are in your career. If you're a baby lawyer, if you're mid-career, if you're coasting towards retirement, there's programming for everybody. And it's meaningful programming that everybody's able to connect to. And just being a part of an organization with such a rich history of supporting women in such a dynamic way, like I feel like every woman lawyer in the state should want to connect to that. GAWL is just an amazing organization. You've talked about pro bono work and service and all of that. And so I did want to just give you a couple minutes to talk about the GAWL Foundation and how the main organization integrates and works alongside the GAWL Foundation, because the foundation is also one of those organizations that does a tremendous heavy lift in our community for women and children. And I think we can't leave this conversation without at least talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the GAWL Foundation is our philanthropic arm, and it's because of the foundation that we can offer scholarships to deserving law school students every year, and also provide grants to our community partners. And so some of them, we're celebrating 95 years, Nicholas House, which is, I didn't even know until recently that it's the only shelter in the Metro Atlanta area that keeps families together.
Amazing.
So men, women, right? Men, women, and children. And we know, unfortunately, statistically, what happens when a family unit is separated. Yeah. And so as they enter their 40th year as an organization, as a shelter for families who would otherwise be displaced, or the father would have to leave, that's near and dear to our heart, in that, we, on a monthly basis, and have been doing it for at least 15, probably even longer, because I know we've been doing it since I've been on the board and just a member, where we support on a monthly basis. We go and serve, the family members are there. But the reason I specifically highlight Nicholas House, and there's several other programs that we do support, but that's probably our longest standing partnership, But I think the reason why it resonates is we're not just serving meals. They're so happy to see, and we've also provided free legal advice, right, as they're trying to transition to, or provide them with legal resources as they get back on their feet and are able to transition back into the regular world without the need of the shelter. But the reason why I think it resonates with so many of our members who volunteer is that you get a chance to interact with the families and just the appreciation that they have, and that we'll take the time after serving the meals to just engage them, right? Find out what their needs are. It could be, that we connect them with a clothing drive, right? Because the mom is getting ready for interviews or what have you. So it goes so far and beyond. And when you talk about, if we talk about, yes, it's important to be a lawyer, but as I said on the initial part of this conversation, it's giving back to the community that we serve. Right. And it has so many layers of that. It just warms my heart that we have to continue to support them and to see them going into their 40th year and to know that we just had a small imprint on their success. It doesn't get any more bountiful than that. So, as part of a board commitment, when you sign on to be a part of the board, you're committing to also a financial contribution. And part of that goes into our endowment to support our scholarship and our grants. So just as important as doing the legal work, we take just as much pride in making sure we give back to the community that we serve, even outside of legal counsel.
That's fantastic. And I hear that word over and again: service, serve, service, give. And I think that is part of the reason why GAWL is still around after all this time, because just being such a pinnacle in the community of service and having lawyers who are willing to give of themselves, even though we're part of a very demanding profession, but taking out time and carving out time to try to leave the community better than we found it. But you've talked about professional things with GAWL, and you've talked about educational things. What about socially? What social types of things can one expect if they were to join the organization? Because every now and again, even lawyers got to let their hair down, right?
Yeah, and I'm your girl for that. I like to, as you say, work hard, but play just a little bit harder. Love it. Because we have such a demanding job. And I think that's what makes us such a great association, because we do programming, right, and substantive information. But I would think if you were to take a poll, I think GAWL is known for being that fun bar association, right? So we have, that's what draw me to it for sure, and has kept me engaged. It's just, we like to have fun. So whether it's our kickoff party that's coming up actually next month, or our holiday party, what makes it great, so we have these what we call signature events, but the fun is connecting with our affinity groups, right? Whether you are into scrapbooking, whether you want to support the Girl Scouts because you were a Girl Scout when you were a kid, to solo practitioners, they just want to have some cocktails. There's literally, with our neighborhood networking breakfast, we all got to eat. We might as well eat and laugh before the day gets started. So I think that GAWL does a great balance of doing programming, something substantive, something that can help you in your legal career, but also it's one of some of my closest friends is because I met them through GAWL. Because you find out very quickly people that you naturally connect with, right? And that you want to talk to outside of a case. You know what I mean? So I love that I can go, we have a book club. If you're a big reader, if you're a sports person like me, there's a group of us who always will find a way to connect and go to a baseball outing. So it really is just a unique an organic way to build relationships. I think a lot of us go into, when you sign up to be a member of a bar association, I think the first thing that we go to is networking. How can I build relationships? But then you find out over time, which is when it goes back to your original question, how could I have stayed on the board for 10 years? It's because I have fun, right?
Yeah.
It's because I love the work that we do, but ultimately it's because of the relationships. And I want to help because I've seen the good that we've done in the community. I just want to be a part of that. So it doesn't feel like work, because some organizations, I know you can understand.
Oh,
it feels like work, and
yes, ma'am.
You're ready for that board year to end.
Absolutely.
And so, my theme internally for fellow board members, I specifically said, I don't want anyone to feel burned out. And so more hands makes a heavy load light. And in that, I'm very sincere about that. This should be an enjoyable experience, not an exhausting one. And the way you do that is bringing a friend along, right? I think we've done a good job of that already this year, is bringing some friends along for the ride. If you're going to volunteer your time, you might as well bring your close friends with you. So that's how I think that we have fun, because you've got friends who, get other friends involved, and it just becomes a domino effect, because you just find out that there's some really very cool and genuine men and women who are members of GAWL.
Right. And so as we reconnect, recollect, and reimagine, we've got, substantive programming, we've got CLEs, and I know the organization hosts a number of free CLEs that is a perk of membership, and then all of the social events that you mentioned. I have no doubt it's going to be a fabulous year. I'm thrilled to be along for the ride. And I will just ask you in closing, because you've done a lot. You've done a lot on what I'm going to call your second act, because this obviously was not your first career. And even though it's your second act, you've done a ton. Do you have any advice for any up and coming, any aspiring women who are like, you know what, I think I'm ready to ascend to a leadership position, but I don't know how to sort of navigate that? What would you say?
The best advice that I could give is what one of my very first mentors gave to me, which is simply raise your hand. When I call on you, be ready to take on the task. Someone's going to be there to pick you up if you fall. But it first starts with just simply raising your hand. I don't know what you want if you don't tell me.
Right.
So don't be afraid to raise your hand, because it's the voice that propels you. When you speak up, I know what you want. I know how to help you get there. And so if you're saying, I'm ready for the challenge, it starts with simply raising your hand. And certainly from a leadership perspective, I know I can speak for myself and feel confident for the other leaders on our board. We will help you navigate and get you to where you want to be.
Valentia, it's that simple, really. Just raise your hand.
That's what I did. That's what I did 12 years ago.
And you're still here. You're still here. Thank you so very much for being here. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad you were able to stop by. I know you're super, super busy. And if you all have the inclination to learn more about the organization, there is a website, www.gawl, and we're spelling that GAWL.org. And the good news is that's the same place you can also join. If you go to that website, on the homepage, there is a button that says join or renew. And it's really that simple. We would love to have you. So thank you so much, Valentia, for stopping by. This has been the latest episode of the She's Got GAWL podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers. And we will see you next time.